Hey, it's Mike Goldstein here with the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling Podcast. And today we are so lucky to have with us one of the foremost experts in Google call ads and Facebook advertising, Josh Wheeler. We're going to talk to Josh. He's going to give us some outstanding tips in just a moment.
Are you looking for some fresh ideas to jumpstart your kitchen remodeling business? Welcome to the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling Podcast. Your host, Michael Goldstein, founder of Kitchen Remodeling SEO, the digital marketing agency working exclusively with kitchen remodeling contractors. And also, the author of the Ultimate Internet Marketing Guide for kitchen remodeling contractors, will provide insights on proven tips and strategies from top experts in this space so that you can take advantage of industry best practices. Your host, Michael Goldstein. Join Mike as he shares his knowledge each week with an insightful interview or educational segment about how to turn your online marketing efforts into more kitchen remodeling leads and sales opportunities than ever before.
And today, like I said, we have with us Josh Wheeler. And Josh is going to talk to us a little bit about some of the hottest topics in Google advertising. One of them that we are seeing just a fantastic outcome in is call-only ads. So Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you and your viewers about some of the things that we're passionate about. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff with ads, and we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to use those things as effectively as possible to help them grow their business.
That's fantastic. So, Josh, one of the things that we have noticed a lot in our industry is that folks typically they want to talk to somebody right away, right? They don't want to fill out a form. They don't want to wait for someone to call back. I mean, are you seeing that across a lot of different industries, or is that really just something that we're finding only in the home services field?
No, I think that that's going to be something that you're going to find across the board. I mean, as we get more technologically advanced as a society, sometimes people want that personal touch. Now, what you're going to find is that as you get into the younger ages, that's going to skew a little bit to where they'll text or they'll message or they'll do something like that. But as we all know, we're in the remodeling space most of the time. That age bracket is going to fall on the upper side of where that's at. So people just want to talk to people and get their questions answered as quickly as possible and to really start that conversation.
That makes sense. And I know that there's a couple different avenues that you can go with that, even when you're talking about, instant communication. On the Facebook side, we have the messenger campaigns and we have the ability for people to interact with even AIs. And then on the Google side, of course, we have the call only ads and call ads. And I think, the difference between those obviously is the pull versus push. And presuming that we're looking at, the proactive searcher, so, shifting towards the Google side of it, I mean, is there really a difference between the call only ads and just the call extension?
Well, I think there is, because primarily when you're talking about call only ads on Google, you're talking about running ads in a way to where it's only going to really focus on trying to get that phone call, versus if you have a call extension, that's an option that's available, but it's not the only option that's available. So a call extension, for example, and for those of you who don't know what a call extension is, it's simply whenever you see a Google ad and it has the phone number listed right there close to the ad and say, hey, you can call this now. So obviously you can achieve the same results looking at that type of thing. But when we talk about call only ads, it's going to be primarily focused on just generating the phone call. We don't care if they visit a website. We don't care if they fill out a form. We don't care about any of that stuff. So in order to do that, we like to run those things on mobile only, because that's where, they're searching on their phones. And whenever they tap the ad, it actually comes up and it says, hey, would you like to call this phone number? Of course, they say yes, and the call is initiated. So it is literally the shortest path in order to be able to talk to somebody. And to me, it's no different than what maybe the old Yellow Pages, might have looked like in a digital realm. It's okay, listen, I just want to make the phone call and my fingers are just doing the walking.
That makes total sense. And I think also one of the points of that is that people now are more and more on their mobile phones and less on the desktop. I mean, in fact, if I were to count, I probably do it on one hand, the amount of people I know who even have a desktop computer still, who are not in the digital marketing or some sort of financial industry.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you want to pick up and go after the folks who have that ability to communicate right away. And I also think that there's a lot to be said, though, for targeting people who do have that direct communication ability. I mean, oftentimes, especially with display ads on Google or even on Facebook, you're showing it to somebody who the idea is you just want them to remember you. Hopefully, they see your ad 10, 15 times. Eventually, they'll remember to contact you. Whereas with a call ad, you have the ability to get that, to draw them in right now and say, hey, do you want to talk to somebody right now? I mean, let's do it.
Absolutely. And there's it's a good thought process whenever you're trying to find people that are ready to go now. That's the difference between Google and Facebook primarily, is that Google is going to drive a lot of traffic that people are in research mode because they're trying to make a buying decision. So you can help facilitate that decision-making process using Google properties. Facebook is going to be more of hey, I'm going to drive demand. I'm going to pique your interest. I'm going to work through that process. So it helps, and it's equally as important because it helps you build that longer term pipeline. Because what most people do and most businesses that we see is that you try to focus on those now buyers, right? You're going to focus on what you can get right this second. That's where Google meets the demand, right? They're going to be searching. They're going to be trying to find somebody to talk to. So when we look at call only ads, that is the thing to say, okay, again, we want to generate the phone call and we want to talk to people who are pretty far down the path. If you're looking at a buying cycle like this, you'll get it here on screen here. If you're looking at from 0 to 100, right? At 0 over here, they're not ready to buy it all, right? They're just in the process doing the research. So if you're trying to think, hey, I may want to have my kitchen remodeled at some point here in the next little bit. Let's start looking around and see the types of things that we like, kind of work through that. And then of course with Facebook, that's what you can do with before and after photos and that type of thing, because you're looking at transformation and saying, hey, do you really, plant the seed. Do you want this whenever you have this? So, but as they work through that process, they're going to eventually need to be able to talk to somebody. Now, if you've done a good job between all of your ads and all of the content that you put out and kind of helping to nurture those pipelines, then your ads are going to be incredibly effective because you've helped facilitate the decision-making process to a point that either one, they're familiar with your name already, or number two, you've become the only option or you become the primary option for them to go with because you've helped them out throughout the process. So it is good to build that entire thing. But again, as we talk about call only ads, it really focuses on the people, the 3% are people that's really right on the outside that said, hey, I'm ready to do something, or I'm closer to do something than maybe in the early research phases.
Yeah. Now, with that in mind, though, I think there's also a little bit of a caveat to it too, which is, if you're a solo, if you're a remodeler and you're more of a handyman or you're a one-man show, oftentimes that means you are out on a job or you're on a sales call and you can't pick up the phone right then and there. So with that in mind, I mean, if you don't have the ability to answer the phone literally 24/7 or at least during business hours, are these still a good idea?
So it depends on how you view business. In my take on it, if I were going to go through, I think the phone call is important enough that I think every business should be doing it. Even if you can't answer the phone, I would much rather pay $100 for a virtual receptionist to answer those phone calls and make sure they get answered. Because at least you're like, listen, if you don't answer the phone, they're going to go on to the next place. But if you answer the phone and say, hey, we're out on a project. Tell me a little bit about what and there's plenty of services available. Mike, we could probably spend all day just talking about the variety of people that are there like that. Probably good topic for blog posts at some point. But as you work through that process, I would probably do that before I would say, no, let's not do that at all. Because what you're really looking for, and this is kind of the death cycle that you see in some smaller companies, if you're a one man show or if you've got a small team, is that you sell the work, then you go do the work. And then, okay, now that we're done, we have to find more work to do. Now, in the current market that we're in, we all know that things are it's pretty busy where people are having a lot of projects done, but it's not always that way. And there's some people that are really busy all the time, and there's some people that are still fighting for work. So, whenever you work through that process, I think that every size of business can benefit from that. Now, how you manage that may be slightly different, but it's not too much of an inconvenience to figure that part out when you compare it to the results that you can get.
Yeah, and some of my clients, what we do with them often is that we have them in our CRM system, and then if somebody doesn't pick up the phone right away, they get an automatic text message that says, hey, saw you just called. Is there a better time for me to connect with you in a meeting right now, or something to that extent? And in addition to that, once they call, they're in your system. Now you can put them into an email automation, a text automation, and they're part of that long-term nurture. Whether, or at least until such time as they say, "Hey, stop bothering me," right?
Absolutely. And if you've got the automation tools to be able to plug in on the back end, that only helps that part of it. Now, when most people say automation, they get a little, ooh, we can't make them talk to a computer. We can't make them talk to a phone service that says press 1, press 2, press 3. But if you have the right automation play on the back end and you kind of sandwich that together, it's like, okay, well, just as if you get a text message, if for some reason you miss a call that says, hey, sorry, we missed your call, we're on a job, what can we help you with, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That's pretty ingenious whenever you look at cross board, because most of the time people just don't get anything. It's just like, oh, okay, we're on to the next. So and I think that's some of the different things that you bring to the table for your clients that just not a lot of people have options and access to, and you make those kind of things available. So I know that you've shared with me a few of those things in the past on the back end of that, and it's really cool with some of the stuff that you do with that.
Yeah, and when you look at the way that you have that automation set up and kind of the almost AI type on the texting and on the response side, if you shift over kind of to the Facebook side of it and to the instant messaging and the message campaigns, I mean, you have the ability to really build out a very intelligent bot, a very intelligent system, even where you can put in place, wait times, and it really makes, I think, the end consumer feel like they're talking to a human being, even if they're not. And not that we ever want to trick anybody. That's never the goal. But you do want to give the experience that they feel that someone's paying attention to them. And I think if you can start asking questions like, hey, are you interested, in a kitchen or your bath or your whole house being remodeled? And they say, well, look, it's in our bathroom. Now you can start asking questions about, are you looking to replace the shower, the tub? Are you, what type of flooring do you, and all of that. So I think, going down that road as well is a really interesting play, because it does give the feeling that, even if you are a one-man show, you're not.
Well, and kind of tying that back into the ads. I know some people that have done Facebook ads before, like, well, we've used Facebook ads before, and they just don't work for us. Right. Whenever we go through, and I had mentioned this earlier, that Facebook creates demand, it plants the seeds. Google usually meets the demand. When you have leads coming through Facebook, a system like you're talking about is what makes that most effective, to say, okay, well, we can get these leads coming in. They're relatively inexpensive as compared to cost per click with Google and those types of things, which, by the way, if you're doing a call only ad, they're substantially less expensive than your standard traditional click. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever that they would be less expensive than a click, but hey, we'll take it for what it's worth. But having a kind of an automated system that you describe and bringing those Facebook leads in to help nurture them and bring them along, so that, okay, well, we weren't ready to buy, but we're helping facilitate that decision. Those are the core critical pieces that most places, like, hey, we can put our sales not necessarily on autopilot, but we can help people out along the process wherever they're at in the process. So, hey, are you just in the very beginning stages? Hey, we've got a checklist for you on how to on what the kitchen remodel process looks like. Here's, setting the expectations. Oh, we're moving down the line a little bit further. Now you're into like, okay, well, what kind of design style do we want? Okay, well, hey, we have a kitchen design guide that you can download, and it's going to give you a variety of styles and things that you can go through. If you've got a planning guide, maybe you've incorporated some of your pricing, and God forbid, I know a lot of people like, well, no, we can't put pricing in there. But what it does is it gives people an option to kind of look through and say, okay, well, this is a range, right? You don't have to put pricing. But as you work through that, you can take those ads, and eventually they're going to come from Facebook. They're going to come over to your website. They're going to interact there a little bit. And then you're going to see ads between Facebook and Google that's going to basically show them more things that helps facilitate that. And that's the beauty in having a good ad system running,
Right.
because if you design it right, it's faucet on, faucet off. You can scale it as much as what you want. If you get super busy, you just throttle it back.
Yep.
And you can control it. Most businesses that we talk to end up being something in the lines of, well, we get a lot of our business from referrals or word of mouth. And for me, most of the time, I call that the hope and pray method of marketing, which is I hope and pray that somebody tells somebody else about me so that they'll come and use our services. And whenever you have that, it's not scalable. And if you really want to grow and you want to be able to add employees, you want to be a bigger impact in your community because you're making more revenue and those types of things, then, ads are certainly one of the key components to your marketing system that allows you to be able to bring in not just jobs, but bring in the better jobs or the jobs you actually want because you've done all that heavy lifting. And of course, Mike, I know that that's the types of things that you help people with is designing all that stuff.
Right. And it's funny you say that because one of the our tagline is don't just take the job that you want. Because so many times somebody will come in and they'll say, hey, listen, I'd love to have my bathroom done. I have a $750 budget. Well, that's great. You have a $750 budget, but most of the people who I work with, at least, they don't lose money on that. There's just no possible way. Even if they went to Home Depot and bought the cheapest stock stuff, couldn't get it done. So it's really important that I think the ad campaign that you're using really speaks to the target audience, speaks to the right audience, and not just to anybody under the sun. That's one of the things that I like about being able to really target is you're not just going out and saying, hey, show my ad to anybody who lives in the Boston, Massachusetts area, or show me anybody in in Houston, but rather it can really target people based on have they come to your site before? What are they looking for? Things to that extent. And that's kind of an interesting question there. So if you are looking at kind of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and then drawing people to your site, but they're not ready to buy yet. When they are ready to buy, they're going to actually search on Google most likely. Is there a way that you can actually retarget on Google for these call ads to people who've been to your site to kind of be a little more proactive and go after folks who might be more likely or at least recognize the name right away?
There is. Now, Google is a little interesting, and they're going through some changes right now. I think they're going through some of the changes because, if you have been in the news cycle at all, people understand the difficulties and issues that Facebook as a company is having in terms of privacy and all those things, which, I want to put your minds at ease. It's really not near as big a deal as what the news tries to make it out to be. But whenever you have those types of things, Google used to be that if you had 1,000 people in your audience, you could retarget them with those types of ads. The problem is it takes, how long does it take for you to get 1,000 visitors over to your website, right? Sometimes in a smaller local market, it can take a while. Right now, they're in transitioning that to where it puts a minimum of 100 people in that audience. Now, they haven't rolled that out completely yet, but that is going to be something that it should be available so that, okay, people that go to the website here, hey, we're going to retarget you with other things. Now, on the search side, there's the ways that we set that up is going to be a little bit different, but what you can do is you can also take and put stuff on Google display advertising, which is going to take that. And that's when you go to CNN, ESPN, any major website will have some of these things on there, and you can make sure that you're basically everywhere all the time with people versus just Facebook. So there's a lot of opportunities there. Now, we use that a lot just to make sure that we're top of mind, that when people are ready to make the decision, they've already checked your website out. So we know that they're kind of interested. And what we'll do is we'll usually break that up into a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day type approach. And then once they get outside of 90 days, we'll usually just let them fall off and go into more of a long-term sequence. But it's really interesting, again, from an ad system standpoint, you can really say, okay, if they've been to my website within the last 30 days, show them these ads. And then if they've been there within the last 60 days or 30 to 60 days, show them this ad. And then from 60 to 90 days, show them this ad. And at that point, you might have different offers going through to say, okay, well, they get more aggressive as they get longer or further out to try to push them over the edge to go ahead and come in and incentivize them. Anyway, that's a little bit of a different story. We can get into the weeds on that part of it. I won't do that to you today because everybody's eyes will just be like, right? So we won't do that to you today. But there's a lot of things that you can do to re-engage your audience once they've come over. You've already paid to get them to your website, or you've already paid to engage with them. You might as well go ahead and make sure that you're getting the most opportunity out of each spot that you can.
That's really good information. And something else that people need, when you're talking about, you've already paid to get them on, you paid to have them go to your website. You've established that they have at least some interest at some level in the service that you provide. I think one of the pieces that's really interesting is the price to retarget somebody is often considerably less than the cost to go get them in the first place. And that's kind of the nice piece is it's not like you're paying, the same $10 a click to get them back in. You've already got them in, and that retargeting is just a fraction of the cost.
Absolutely. Well, and we'll see a decrease on the actual cost to get your ads back in front of them anywhere from 60 to 80%. I mean, it's substantial when you look at that. Now, you're not going to show it to as many people, and that's part of the process because, okay, well, you have 100 people over to your website. I'm taking this big group of people that I'm trying to convince to come talk to us, and now we've just got this little pocket. And no, a lot of times that's okay because you've got this little bucket of people, and really this is your warm audience, right?
They already have an interest in you. I mean, that's the difference. As far as I see, it's kind of like if you have a certain, and in the kitchen remodeling space, it's not really where you're going to have repeat customers, every 6 months or so. But I mean, it's always easier to resell somebody, I find, than it is to get a brand new customer. And that's why. Sorry.
No. As you go, it's a lot easier to do that, or it's a lot easier to convince them to refer you. There are outbound referral opportunities that you can use. It's a little outside the scope of what we're talking about today, but it is a lot easier we do ad campaigns all the time that are largely based on referral campaigns to your existing customers to say, hey, if you're super happy with what you have, we would certainly appreciate the referral. And if you do, we're going to give you a referral finder's fee of 10% or whatever it is. So there's, you can use literally, if you've got a message that you need to get to somebody, you can use the ads to do that in a pretty effective way. Most people, you can combine an email blast out to your clients and that type of thing. But, don't sleep on the ad component to that, just making sure you're staying in front of your current customers.
No doubt about it. That's really great information to have because so many people, they just look at ad campaigns as, I have one goal, I have one target, and once I'm either going to accomplish it or I'm not. And it really is much more than that. I mean, the whole omnipresent approach to marketing, I think, is something that people need to really take to heart, and and they don't. And Josh, I know you're in a little bit of a different industry. You're in that sign industry there. Where all those companies, and so it's almost marketing to market there. and no doubt, and where you are, I'm sure they have all of that, the retargeting and the trying to get the referrals is just so critical to expanding the business.
Yeah, what's really funny is that whenever you get to the point to where you're understanding the buyer, right? So you can use your ads in just about anything, whether it's business to business, business consumer products. In your client's case, you got a lot of remodelers, and of course remodeling. That's the funny thing that that you shared with me. It can mean a lot of different things. Just because a kitchen remodeler, all kitchen remodelers, or all kitchen and bathroom remodelers are not the same in terms of what they do. I didn't even know you were talking to me about a client that you had out in California that does refacing, of cabinets, and the ads for them, just because the lower price points or lower cost points in terms of that, and quicker turns that you can have on that, really blew my mind. That you could basically get a new kitchen or a new look kitchen in a week instead of so anyway, it was really interesting to hear about a lot of those things. But regardless of what type of remodeler that you're into, it doesn't matter what type of jobs that you want. That's a perfect example. Some people are okay with the lower jobs, quicker turn. Some people want that, demo, tear it all out, put it all back in new. And those are two vastly different things, but it doesn't matter whenever you're looking at the ads, because your buyers, you're always going to have somebody that's going to be interested in that high-end work or that high-end stuff. And you're always going to have people that are interested in, listen, I want it to look new, but a fresh coat of paint is fine by me,
Yeah, no doubt. And, and I do think, a lot of people aren't going the fresh coat of paint, they're going, replacing the cabinet doors, but the idea is everyone has their own, niche market, their own opportunities, and you just got to kind of use these ads. And that's the beauty of Google ads, and especially of the call only ads, is they really do allow you to target what you want, go after your existing audience, and not waste ad spend on, this massive, entire geographic region, demographics be damned. It's just, if you live within 50 miles, I want to show it to you. And then, honestly, that's why a lot of people come to us, because they were using, they're using companies, like Home Advisor, who will just send, the same, they'll advertise, they'll throw their Google ads up. And, if someone's within 100 miles, hey, yeah, we're going to give it to you, and we're going to give it to 6 other people. So one of the benefits.
By the way, you've got to give us your firstborn for that lead as well.
Yeah, that's cool too. So, anyways, hey, Josh, listen, it was really great having you on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. If anybody does want to, can I get a hold of you? Because I know, like I said, you're in the sign industry. What's the website? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, if you're a kitchen remodeler that needs a new sign, and you're trying to find a sign company, hey, that's the kind of we help the sign company make sure that who they are. But you can always go over to signshopmarketingpros.com if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Hey, sometimes it's just cool to go look at the pictures, right? Listen, I'm not a kitchen remodel guy, but I can appreciate the artistry that goes into that. And I love looking at pictures, especially those before and afters. Listen, guys, I'm telling you, if you don't do anything else, take this advice. Make sure that you put an X on the floor, take a picture before you get started, and come back to that X and take another picture after you get done, because I'm telling you, a video that has those things just kind of merge and morph from one to the other. Man, it really does the trick whenever when you're trying to get across the actual transformations that you help people with. And again, doesn't matter if it's just paint or if it's it'll have the same effect. So if you do want to do ads, make sure that you're getting those things every single time you goes out on the job. As a matter of fact, and not to promote anything else, but there is a program and a software that I had come across that will help you do this, because I had my sign guys doing the same things. A company called Company Cam. Where you go in and it'll give you a resource or a place to where it's just an app on your phone, and you can plug in the before and afters, and it makes it real easy to keep all those things nice and tidy instead of going through like the 10,000 pictures I know you have on your phone. Right. So anyway, but yeah, just Sign Shop Marketing Pros. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out at josh@signshopmarketingpros.com.
All right. Well, Josh, thanks again for joining us today. It was great having you. Maybe we can have you come back, in a few months and talk about some of the updates to Google, and we'll see how things are.
Yeah, man. Look forward to it. Thanks. Hey, have a great day, guys.
Thanks. All right. Bye, everybody. This is Mike Goldstein with the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling Podcast. See you later.